Hi there, this is Matt with State of Flux, here with an official ranking video for the Alien franchise. I'm going to include all 7 mainline films and the 2 Alien vs. Predator movies. This is going to be somewhat controversial because some of the takes I have are pretty damn hot, but I can feel like I can justify all of them. So we're going to start from the bottom. The worst of the franchise, in the number 9 spot, is Ridley Scott's Prometheus. I've had bowel movements that were less shitty than this movie. This film feels like it is somebody that took a philosophy or theology textbook, recited the chapter headings aloud, asked you to ruminate on them because the film and the people making the movie aren't going to do the work for you, and instead set it against a backdrop of soft sci-fi horror that is completely juxtaposed and unconnected to the philosophical ruminations that it's asking you to do. I'm fine with a movie asking big questions, but I do ask that they do a little bit of the work to try and answer any question that it puts forth, and this film absolutely doesn't. Shy of, why are we here? Well, I guess an engineer made us, and that has its own string of problems that lead to more questions. And it's just, this is a film that is absolutely maddening because it has the support of a large section of the online filmic community because it's made by a guy, the man who made Alien and Blade Runner, and so there's a lot of love for this, and I feel like a lot of it is unjustified, and it's purely loved on its aesthetic, which, admittedly, if you mute this film, it is fucking a banger. Like, you have glorious photography throughout the entire film. Incredible art direction. The technical makeup of this movie is stunning and justifiably deserving of award and accreditation. But you're a storyteller as well, and the story is absolutely abysmal. The characters are abysmal. There are things teed up as if they're big, huge moments, like Vickers being Whedon being Vickers' father, that come out of nowhere, and you're left like, am I supposed to care that there's meaning here? Like, it doesn't. Nothing is sold character-wise, and the few characters that they do spend the time on, they don't do anything with. Shy of David. He is the one saving grace of this movie. And it's not to say like the performances aren't good. This movie has Idris Elba in it and Charlize Theron. Yes, the performances are good from everybody. But David is the only reason to watch this movie. Shy of the incredible visual aesthetics of the film. But I'm a person that cares about story. And I care about structure. And I care about meaning. And I care about connectivity to like motif and theme, and this movie doesn't operate on those merits, and that's why this movie fails so. Even though it is a better made movie than some of the other movies on this list, it doesn't land itself as a movie because it never comes together well. Moving on into the number 8 spot, and some people will accuse recency bias, but I am saying Alien Romulus falls into this spot. And that is because this film is largely a regurgitation of everything else that this franchise has had to offer. It ties into Prometheus in meaningless ways that are more maddening than anything else, and brings back an extended cameo that I think is morally questionable because the performer is no longer around to give the okay, even if his estate did. And it again asks more questions, like if the company had the alien to some capacity, how come they never, or how come they needed it so badly in Aliens? It feels like this is just an attempt to rewrite the canon so that aliens can't happen There's many problems I have with this movie, including the final act of the film that is a blatant ripoff of one of the other movies on this list that we will be touching on soon, and I just don't get it, man. Like, how can people accept this movie? It's well-liked. I've talked to people who dislike some of the movies that this movie is cribbing from, and are completely fine with it. And I just don't understand how we can let a franchise continue to recycle and regurgitate the same shit over and over and over again. I'm done. It's not okay to do this, especially for a film as well made as this movie is. The first act of Romulus, I was convinced I was watching the best Alien film. It has a great setup, some inventive camera work, it is really strong with its art direction, as all of these movies largely are, and it has a great cast and strong characters. Why is this movie as not great as it is? The answer is, you've seen a lot of it before, and you've seen it in better movies, or if you haven't seen it in better movies, it doesn't do any better than the movies that it's ripping off anyway. Moving on to the number 7 spot, we have Alien vs. Predator Requiem. It's shocking that I like not one, but 2 AVP movies better than Romulus, because both of them are inferior aesthetically in almost every way to Romulus. But the one thing I will say for AVPR is I kind of liked the plot, and I kind of liked the screenplay. It's as if Degrassi Junior High got invaded by the xenomorph, and the only thing that could save them was a predator. And that might not appeal to you, and hey, I get it, but as a hardcore fan of teen melodrama made in Canada, which this film was, I vibed with it pretty hard. There is a piece of me that gets a lot of pleasure from that, and I just wish I could see what the hell was going on. This movie is so dark and underlit, I couldn't figure out what the fuck was happening. And that is pretty disappointing. That said, I would, if asked to watch this or Alien Romulus again, probably watch AVPR, just because I kind of like what that screenplay has going on for it. To be clear, none of it's like amazing or anything, but it does hit like some of my base interests a little bit. So that's hot take number 1, I guess. Or if you're a big fan of Prometheus and Romulus, hot take number 3 for 3. Alright, moving into the number 6 spot is Alien 3. Alien 3 is a movie that I've always bumped into. I think it has an incredible final scene with Ripley's sacrifice. That is teed up incredibly well throughout the movie and executed exceptionally well. It is one of the strongest conclusions to a character that we've got in film history. As I am sure some of you who love this film are saying, yeah, but Ripley. I get you, I hear you. Those of you saying, yeah, but David Fincher, dude abandoned this movie. He didn't even come back for any of the supplemental making of materials for the Alien quadrilogy. He has effectively completely disowned this movie and only talks about it in negative light and doesn't even necessarily view it as a movie of his own. So I do take umbrage with that. That said, David Fincher is a gifted filmmaker even when he's been fired from a project, and it shows in this film because this is, for my money, the best looking Alien movie. I love the use of light. I love the use of color. Or beige is put to the best use I've ever seen on film. I like the look of the alien. I like the look of the rod puppeting, which a lot of people confuse for CGI to make it look weird and whatnot. It doesn't bother me. It makes it look alien and different, and I'm on board with that. I will say the alien doesn't seem as much of a visceral threat in this one. It feels more animalistic, but less dangerous, and I'm on board with that because it was different and it was new. That said, this film has some pretty inexcusable things. I think as a sequel to Aliens, it's pretty awful and pointlessly and willfully nihilistic. And I don't understand the choice to do that. Killing off Newt and Hicks has always rubbed me the wrong way because there's no reason to do it the way they did it. And that has always just made me burn. On top of that, the film seems undercooked because they were constantly writing and rewriting, and they signed on and built sets to a film that they didn't even get to execute, and were changing the sets up until the day of shooting and past shooting for a lot of it, and that shows with how kind of all over the place but also first drafty this script feels. It's somehow both overwritten and underwritten in the same time, and for a franchise that is so focused on giving you believable characters, this film really doesn't have any, or any that you can differentiate from each other. And on top of that, this film has the worst scene in any Alien film, which is the attempted gang rape of Ripley, which is absolutely unacceptable after building up this feminist icon over 2 films and completely reducing her to a damsel in distress who needs to be saved by another inmate just so you can establish firmly that this is the good inmate that is going to call your attention. It's disgusting and revolting, and I hate it. And it's for that scene almost exclusively that I cannot bring myself to have it any higher on this list. And part of me even wanted to put it behind AVPR. That said, I do think this is a better made film. You can see what the fuck is going on, and it has some really good performances from obviously Sigourney Weaver, but Charles S. Dunton and Charles Dance. So it gets a soft pass. I guess Pete Postlethwaite is in there too, we can't forget him. But yeah, the emergence of Bishop 2 is also so bad. But I have more to say on Bishop. Right now in the number 5 spot, Charles Bishop Whedon brings people to Antarctica in order for audiences to see Alien vs. Predator. The first Alien vs. Predator film has a pretty, again, overwritten and underwritten kind of plot of let's have aliens on Earth, but we're going to set it in Antarctica to give you like the closest quality space has on Earth. Don't think that's what people wanted to see when they first thought of aliens on Earth. That said, I really like the art direction of this film. A lot of people don't talk about it very much, but I think this is a pretty good-looking movie with like the whole build of the pyramid and offering insight into both the alien and the predator of it all. I think the action is stunning. Paul W.S. Anderson does know how to shoot a movie. Not always executing them very well, or very rarely executing anywhere good. This is one of his 3 movies that I think are passable. But as for delivering the promise of an Alien versus a Predator movie, this film definitely lists more alien in its like leanings, and the action is really quite strong. The visual effects actually are pretty good in this movie too. I think that for as low of a budget as it has, this movie looks pretty stellar. And I'm also shocked at how much Prometheus kind of borrows from this film. The base setup of how they get to discover the aliens is almost identical. And that has always captivated me ever since watching Prometheus. Again, for a franchise that so concerns itself with character, this film has the most cardboard of cardboard cutouts of the franchise. Like, I guess next to only Alien 3. At least AVPR gave you, like, static characters from like TV quality writing. But like you got the framework of who the people were and got to like hate like, oh, I'm supposed to hate this one, oh, I'm not supposed to hate this one kind of thing. This movie is just like got the equivalent of backstory that like Katana gets in Suicide Squad. This is Katana, she's got my back. That's kind of how you learn about all the characters in this film, and it's just like, heavens. They really truly develop only the main girl you're supposed to follow, and Charles Bishop Wayland, who Lance Henriksen does a pretty damn good job. That said, this film is certainly not within the canon of the Alien franchise, as is AVPR, because we certainly see the now canonized Peter Wayland in the Prometheus chronology. Alright, moving on to my number 4 spot is Alien Resurrection. It wasn't always this high on my list until I did a rewatch about a year ago, and I found that I like this movie for its screenplay. I think the screenplay is quite strong. In fact, I feel like it was a first draft almost to what Firefly, the TV show, eventually became. You have this ragtag group of space pirates who get caught up in something much larger than themselves and are like walking this moral gray territory and trying to escape from the company that has them in their sights. You even have parallels between the characters. The captain is kind of a Mal-like character. You have Johnner, who's very much like a Jane-like character. You have Call, who very much reads like Kaylee, and you have Ripley, who's very much like River. They're all kind of represented there, and they're both written by the same individual. I think the screenplay, after watching the movie, but I'd also done so once before, read the screenplay. The screenplay reads well. Said writer has always criticized this film as being a terrible execution of his screenplay by somebody who just totally didn't understand tone. And that is conveyed thoroughly throughout the movie. If you're going to lament anything about Alien Resurrection, it is a fugly movie. It's not like poorly shot or anything, it's just ugly looking. The choice of art direction and design throughout the film is just like drab and gross looking, and not in a lived-in world, in a like almost like pointedly dingy looking universe, and not set in reality like Alien is. It just seems like it's forced. And who directed this film? Jean-Rene? No, I can't remember. Jean-Pierre Jeunet directed the film. He'd never seen the Alien franchise. He admits that on the commentary, and he chose not to see them ahead of the film because he didn't want to be influenced. And I feel like if you're doing a franchise film, you should let a little bit of influence seep in. I feel like most of the problems with this film can be centered around his involvement. Not that he's a bad director. Delicatessen is a phenomenal film. He's made several lovely films, including Amelie. He just doesn't match the Alien franchise, and he is the reason that this film really just doesn't work. As I say, the script is strong, but it's not clean. It has some problems that you can see stem from studio interference about rewrites and stuff like that, or budgetary constraints. The ending of the film is supposed to be this big action epic battle that happens on Earth that couldn't actually happen because they couldn't afford it, so then it just takes place on this like loading dock where aboard the ship, where they can then get rid of the newborn. The newborn is something that is one of the elements that did compel me, however. I like that they brought Ripley back, but she wasn't the same character. This is effectively a brand new character we're introduced to. She has no like semblance of who Ripley is or was. She's her own thing, and she's even branded Ripley 8. She's the 8th attempt at this, and you see in a stunning scene, one of my favorites of the entire franchise, that she is going around and seeing her brethren. Is there a female form of that word? Let me know in the comments down below. Her brethren, that is all her as well, and she feels a connection to and discovers the one that is alive. And Sigourney Weaver acts the shit out of that scene. She is so damn good. But I like that she doesn't ever choose to play Ripley like Ripley in this film. She is her own creation, and I like that she's part alien. Just as I like that when they couldn't splice the cloning process and get a purely human clone of Ripley, they also couldn't get a purely alien form of the Queen. And she is imbued with a full reproductive system of a human woman and gives a natural birth instead of an egg birth. That was a weird concept, but I thought it was kind of a neat connection and connectivity to Aliens, where that film is all about mothers and to combating mothers. We get to see an extension of that in Alien Resurrection that I think is often overlooked. It's a weird idea, but I don't think it's a bad one. It at least thematically connects to things established before and within this film. And I really like the character of Call and how she is much more Ripley than Ripley is. And she has this drive and she sees herself as this ugly thing because she isn't anything and she shouldn't be. She has the beginnings of what David becomes in Prometheus are found here, along with the creation of all these Ripleys and like you going through and seeing them. A lot of the elements that make up Prometheus and Covenant can be found here in this movie, at least at the start, and that is kind of compelling. I like Alien Resurrection for what it is. It's not a perfect movie, but it's better than a lot of people give it credit for, and I think it's equal to my number 3 spot, and this is my biggest probable hot take. Alien is not my favorite Alien movie, far from it. This movie I think is just kind of accidentally good. Its art direction, its use of Geiger as bringing about this completely biological life form, and believably so, is genius. The first 40 minutes are incredibly strong, but it's after the chest burster scene, which everything leading to that is incredibly good, it becomes Halloween in space. It becomes so lazy as a slasher because so much of what makes the slasher element work within this film, the confines of it, are built around the confines of the frame that you're watching. The alien is just outside of it. The person, Dallas, Harry Dean Stanton, what's his character's name, could clearly see where the alien would be, but it is able to get the jump scare from us because of how they construct the frame, and I think that is cheap filmmaking. You also have another pseudo-rape scene of Ripley with the droid Ash, and don't get me started on the android element. It comes out of nowhere for a first-time viewer, and if you're on board with the android element of it, chances are it's because you grew up with it. And so either saw one of the other Alien movies first, or you just accepted that as a part of this film. It comes out of nowhere, there's nothing to set it up, and I don't like it, especially in this film. It's been utilized well in other movies, and as I say, I really like the character of David and Call, but in Alien, just doesn't work for me. In my number 2 spot, shockingly, is Alien Covenant. I really think that this is a phenomenal sequel to Prometheus. It's a pretty lackluster sequel to, or installment of the Alien franchise. In fact, the first hour and 20 minutes are, like, astonishingly good. The moment, again, Ridley, when you get the chestburster scene, from there forward, it becomes a by-the-numbers alien thing. You've just kind of seen this before. It seems lazy as is, and there's no fear, there's no weight of drama. You're just waiting for it to happen. And this film even includes a goddamn shower scene. Like, how many times has that been done? I I think it becomes lazy then. However, so as an Alien film, it is probably disingenuous to have it this high on the list. That said, as a Prometheus sequel, it is fucking phenomenal. And I will rewatch those first hour and 20 minutes with repetition, and I really like that. But that leaves the number one spot for James Cameron's Aliens. This is a great allegory for the Vietnam War. It is a film about mothers. It is a film that uses aesthetic incredibly well. It is a good-looking movie. It's not as claustrophobic or scary as Ridley Scott's first film. That one wins there, but what what elements are brought here are incredibly strong. It's a strong character study with Ripley, and she is just fantastic. I like all the other characters that surround her. You get to know a little bit of them. The company man, Burke, is really well played by Paul Reiser, who always does like a twitch anytime he's lying, and there's like little tells and subtlety. I love how the moment that she reveals to him at the board meeting where the xenomorph is, that's when he, behind the scenes, makes the call that then sends Newt's dad to go out and get the alien, and that's the moment it all starts and goes backwards. Aliens is a phenomenal film that I could talk about forever. I have 2 reviews of it on here, and maybe I'll do an audio commentary someday. It's one of my 10 favorite feature films, and for many, many years was my all-time favorite movie. I adore Aliens. So there you have it. That's my 9. What are your 9? I would like to hear that in the comments down below. Again, the rundown is in the number 9 spot, Prometheus, 8, Alien Romulus, 7, AVPR. In the number 6 spot is Alien 3, 5, AVP1, 4, Alien Resurrection, 3, Alien 2, Covenant, and 1, Aliens. And really the only reason Alien 3 is Alien is in the number 3 spot, higher than Resurrection, is without this film, we wouldn't have any of the others. So I give that just a slight leaning. The aesthetic wins over the script in that case, but I do think Resurrection has more going on for it than Alien does literarily, or in its screenplay. But anyway, I'm done. Let me know what your ranking is in the comments below. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Peace.